So video creators, I would just love for you guys to really start thinking about, if you haven't already, is to really start thinking about your business like a business. There's going to be times as you grow now, is like you're going to start, you're going to be a great video creator, great creative, but you're going to have to eventually at some point put on the CEO hat. Would love for you to just start thinking that through, because I'm seeing so many creatives and video creators now having these amazing opportunities to be CEOs and really run their business. The world is a crazy time to be alive in terms of content and media. So I'm super excited for you guys, and I think the world is your oyster in terms of opportunities.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're watching from. My name is Matt Pierce, host of the Visual Lounge. Today, we're going to be talking about something I think is really important, because if you want to learn how to get better at making video, you want to learn better at using images in your work, the thing that I do, and I love doing, is going in and looking at what other people do. So today, we're going to be talking to our guest, Rob Balasabas, about the lessons that he's learned, because he is a creator, he works with a lot of creators, and he has, I think, a great kind of purview of all these things that are happening both in the YouTube industry plus kind of across the board with creators that hopefully he's going to be able to share some insights with us. So let's go ahead and introduce Rob here. Rob serves as the head of partnerships and community at Uscreen, where he oversees all things from influencer marketing, sponsorships, and content collabs, as well as overseeing the Uscreen community team. As a passionate content creator himself, Rob shares tutorial videos and live streams on his personal YouTube channel, social profiles, and hosts the Coffee with Content Creators podcast. An advocate for content creators, Rob frequently speaks at conferences on topics such as monetization, revenue stream development, and creator economy trends. He speaks at various conferences including VidSummit, FinCon, PodFest, Social Media Marketing World, The Brief by The Marketing Brew, and more. Outside of work, Rob is a devoted husband and father who enjoys exploring new places with his family and savoring a good cup of coffee. And with that said, please welcome Rob to the Visual Lounge. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Matt.
How's it going?
Matt, thank you so much. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking time to be with me today. I'm super excited to talk with you. So we're going to dive in. We always like to ask kind of upfront a question that gets really practical. So you're a video creator. You work with all these creators. What's one tip you would give my audience about improving or using video in the work that they do?
Man, there's so many. But I mean, before I do that, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to the show, Matt. I appreciate you so much. Man, over the years, it's how you've served creators and creatives and folks out here in the creator economy. And so I just thank you for your friendship over the years. The whole team at TechSmith has been awesome. So
thank you.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate you guys so much. But I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about. But I guess one thing that really just kind of comes to me with tips for creators out there and video creators specifically is really surround yourself with other video creators, even if they're in your space, in your niche. Even better, right? But definitely surround yourself with other video creators. It's, there's a lot of us out here, but there's also not that many, if that makes a lot of sense. But, there's going to be some, over the years, there's a lot of times, man, it's been so great just to be able to talk to another video creator that understands, what you're going through. There's some videos that may not pop, or there's a question that you have, or you've had a win and nobody really gets the win, why it's such a big thing for you, but other video creators will get it, whether it's you're winning or having a sort of going through a tough season. Just having other creators around you, man, will sustain you. It's just really good. So I think that would be my, my kind of one tip, if there's one out there that I would give today. Hopefully that sticks.
Well, I love that, because I think in a lot of industries, it feels often competitive, right? And not to say it's not competitive, but I think that's one thing that's really impressed me about the creator kind of community, is that while, yes, there are people out there doing similar things, maybe similar topics, maybe similar focus, maybe similar brand, but whenever I've gone to them, it feels less competitive and more like, hey, yeah, we're in this together, and it's not me versus you. It is us together. What can we accomplish?
Exactly. And there's, I mean, it really depends on how you look at the world. But I think, especially, I've learned over the years in this creator economy space, media space, there's more than enough for everybody to win. There's more than enough for even platforms, software. I'm sort of, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit, Matt, but I'm sort of like, I'm a creator myself, but I'm also working for a brand, and the brand has competitors. You as a creator, if you're a video editing expert, you also have competitors. There's other video editing experts out there, but there's more than enough sort of work or business for everybody, and that's just what I've learned over the years. And one of the best things I've done, even in the early days, I was taught by other creators, was collaborate. Even if you think they're competition, they're not competition. There's you share audiences, and the funny thing about the audience is that they're not just choosing one creator to follow, subscribe, even purchase products from, or they're going to many different creators, right? They want to hear different voices and different takes on things. So yeah, it's a big ocean out there.
Yeah, and I love that, and I love that approach, because I know I've greatly benefited when, particularly in brands, and a lot of my audience and myself we're training development, learning development, and that there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely tools that compete with Camtasia, Snagit, and things like that. There's some that have worked for other companies, people that work for other companies that I've become really great friends with, and they're great people.
Yeah.
And we don't share anything we shouldn't, but it's helpful
Yeah.
to have someone that understands, like, oh yeah, this is hard, or this is great,
Yeah.
or so that's awesome. So I want to talk about, you mentioned you're a creator, but you've also got this experience in the brand. You because of the company you work for, you see a lot of creators as well. So I mean, you've got this really, I think, nice perspective of what's going on in the world. So from your kind of vantage point, you see probably a lot of people trying to start, making videos, build a YouTube channel, grow their presence or brand, and that could be both businesses, that could be individual creators. So what's the thing that you think most people are struggling with right now, the get started part? Like what's hard for people?
Oh, okay. Yeah. To get started, I think a lot of people that are starting, I find that they have a really hard time trying to find their place in this big, massive, ocean of content and creators, and who am I going to be like? And it's really easy, I think, a lot of new creators, it's just like anything, right? Like, I think they aspire to be the person that they're following, and it's really hard. And then that's when these, sort of this imposter syndrome really falls in, and you're like, oh, I'm not as big as so and so, or like, I don't want to name, like, oh man, I can't be like Peter McKinnon. Yeah, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
like Peter McKinnon. So how can I? Why should I even start? What's the point? And how can I talk to brands, or how can I, build products? Would anyone even buy it? How can I do live streams or create videos? Would anyone even watch me? And so a lot of these, what do I have? I think that's like one of the deepest questions that people sort of that stop them. They're like, what do I even have? Like, that people would listen to my podcasts or watch my videos. Like, why? And that's where surrounding yourself with some people that can speak into this, whether they're also starting. I think one of the things that you can also do, and that's really helped me and just on a personal note, is like having a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Having somebody that has been sort of where you want to go, that's willing to kind of like kind of show you the ropes a little bit, right? And tell you, hey, you can do this. And you need those positive reinforcements, because the the industry, or the world out there will kind of like kind of shut you down if you let it. So I think as you start, that's the main thing. It's like really, it's really just hard to get over that thought. Once you get over that, and once you start experiencing like, hey, people are learning, and they're understanding, because if you're out there and you're creating content, you have something to offer. You have a unique voice, you have knowledge and experience, and that's going to help somebody, right? And so I think as soon as you realize that, because it is out there, then it just becomes a little bit easier and easier to create content and put yourself out there.
Yeah, I mean, I love that advice. Find someone that can, I think, kind of probably they're multitasking in that role, right? They're a mentor. They're going
Yeah.
to give you advice. they're also a little bit of a cheerleader because it is hard. This is,
Yes.
I think the reality I've had, and I've had a long career in kind of being able to make video, a lot of it tutorial software, product focus, but it's hard. It's
Yeah.
challenging, and it's a lot to keep up with. And I think you need someone that's willing to give you some encouragement, but also to speak truth to you, right? Like, and say like,
Yeah.
hey, that's going to work. That's not going to work, or you really need to do better here. Because I think the reality is what I wish was true. And maybe Rob, you're the same way. I wish I could just turn on the camera and whatever I said was awesome and amazing.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
reality is I sometimes I have something, but a lot of times, I'm lucky. I got guests. That's why I bring smart people like you on, right? Because you're gonna be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, actually, I mean, to be honest, let's when I first started my YouTube channel, my own personal YouTube channel, that was that's the like for the first probably year, maybe 18 months, all I did was invite other creators to be my guests. And it just for a number of different reasons, like, it just made me more comfortable to have conversations. The light was not always just shining on me, and like it wasn't all about me. It was a lot about more about the guest and what they knew. And so, and then also I was able to network with these other, creatives, and it was great. It's such a, and I still continue to do that today. That's really why I have a video podcast, as you know, and that's really why I have it. I just love to just like hear stories and hear people's stories and learn from them. And, and I think I represent my audience as well, in those shows, in those sessions. And I tend to think like, what would my audience want to know from these people and these experts? And so the conversations really flow, and it's just a lot easier to create content that way. And so taking some of those, then I'm able to create solo, pieces of content where it's just me doing tutorials or maybe a solo episode on the podcast. And it makes that a lot easier because I have all of this other reps, all these other,
Yeah.
times that I've been doing content already, where I have some things to fall back on, some knowledge, some experience. And it's just really helped over the years.
Yeah. I mean, nothing like putting reps, right? Like it's
That's
like
right. That's right.
everything else. Well,
Like anything.
I want to shift gears a little bit here, Rob, and talk because I mean, again, you've got such a great perspective, and so I want to talk about from a brand perspective for a little bit because I think that's unique, and I think a lot of people in my audience are probably they're either working for an organization or they might be trying to create their own channel based on something like software for an organization or something like that. So I'm curious. There's a lot of trends out there that happen in the world of video, and particularly in YouTube, maybe even the short form content channels, TikTok and Instagram, YouTube Shorts. So right now, if you're looking at someone, if someone said, "Hey, Rob, we want to bring you in. We want you to be a content creator for our brand," and you're like, and you're looking to get advice, what advice would you give yourself in that situation? Because I think this is it's a weird spot. It's more prevalent than it used to be, but
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, I could count the number of people who were really working for a company and being the role that you're in, or Andy
Yeah.
Owen is in for TechSmith, or I'm in for TechSmith. So
Yeah.
again, I'm looking for like, what advice do you give someone who works for a brand, representing a brand, but is trying to be kind of that creator role as well?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I've never been asked that in any kind of podcast. Yeah, thanks, Matt. I mean, lots of thoughts there. I think first you have to really respect the brand you work for. You're representing a brand. Behind that brand is somebody that started the brand. The CEO, founder, the board, but also like there's all of your colleagues and your peers, your teammates, right? You're representing the brand wherever you go. Especially, I'm wearing a Uscreen hat wherever they go. Like, hey, who is this guy? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're, if you guys are listening to or watching this podcast as well, you're like, cool, Rob's here. I understand that, but he's wearing a Uscreen hat. What's that all about? And so whatever I do, I represent the brand. It's just like, I tell my kids like, hey, wherever you go, you represent our family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, so you act accordingly, and you understand, you have to have a deep understanding of your brand values, excuse me, your point of view as a brand. For me, for example, we're in the creator economy membership space. That's what we do. What's Uscreen's point of view on those things? Like, what's Uscreen's point of view on, creators going full time, or monetization revenue streams and all this other stuff, right? um, you really have to have that, right? There's a lot of EQ that needs to be going into place, that you need to bring with you all the time. Like, it's not like we're celebrities or anything, Matt, but we do represent a brand,
Yeah.
and so that's really important that you understand that. Um, I think the second thing too is that you just have to really, really love what you're doing. You have to believe in the brand. You have to believe in what you're doing. Who you're serving, and the solutions you're providing. You really have to believe it. If you don't, it will really show. It'll be like, well, I don't know, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're like, okay, well, if you're working for Nike but you're wearing Adidas when people aren't looking, it's kind of weird, right? It's like, I don't know, that guy really is an advocate, brand ambassador for the brand that he works for, because when people aren't looking, he's not really like advocating for it. So there's a lot of that kind of goes through my mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, Matt, but like I feel like you really have to embody the brand almost. Like, yes, you're going to show up on camera, but we go to conferences. So when people have conversations with you, they're kind of they're it's there's a filter that they go through in their mind when they have interactions with you as well, right? So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's this really interesting challenge, right? Because you have to be able to say like, yeah, this is it. For me. I think what works well is it's worked, and I can't say this would be with every brand. I don't know that I could go to just any brand and do this, but it works because it works for me, because the company I work for and who I am, they align. Now,
Yes.
is that because I've been there for so long and we've just kind of grown together? Like, but I think there's that natural kind of affinity that happens, and if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard. So I love that what you're saying there, right? Like that you've got to kind of understand the kind of that EQ, what you're representing, who you're representing, why you're representing them, and bring that to the table. I also think just that, being really aware of what it means, right? Like like you said, we're out at events, we're doing podcasts, you're doing videos, and always just trying to bring forth the best foot. And that's not to say you're not human, or we're not human, or we don't have flaws or imperfections, or we don't make mistakes. I say stupid stuff all the time. I do things wrong, but I think ultimately it's just trying to like be you. And to maybe steal a phrase from Sean Cannell, be you plus two, right? Like it's you plus you're bringing that brand. But ultimately, I think the relationships I developed with many people, they know me, they know Matt, and right, and then the good news is because I think I'm a decent person, that reflects well on the brand. But then also people come to me and they don't know Matt and they know the brand, but that reflects well onto me. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
symbiotic relationship, and and it can be uncomfortable at times because sometimes your brands do stuff that you're like, oh, I don't know if I fully agree with that. And you have to be okay, and you have to find ways to work through that and understand it. And because regardless, you put on I put on the shirt, you put on the hat, we support those, sometimes those hard decisions, and you have to work through that. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
tough
Yeah.
thing, but it's kind of goes to my next question. I want to kind of lead to like
Sure.
flip it and say like, if you were going, now you're starting your own brand and you want to hire someone to do this role, like what advice would you give to that owner or that the CEO or marketing, VP of marketing or whoever, about what it takes to be a good person to fill that kind of brand role?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a great question. If you're out there, if I was to talk to to a founder or CEO, a CMO, and look into, I think I'll tell them that you're doing the right thing. Like if this is scary for you, you haven't hired a creator or somebody to kind of represent you internally. Um, I think that's the first thing, is reinforce that, hey, you're doing the right thing. I'm sure they know that already, but I know that there's a lot of brands out there. And Matt, you mentioned it, like a few years ago, there's no guys like us. Like, and that's not in any type of flex or anything. It's just that it wasn't a common thing for brands to have in-house, brand ambassadors or
Mm-hmm.
creators or partnership people, whatever you may want to call us. They would typically hire somebody else. Like they would, sponsors a brand, somebody like a influencer, or somebody. But I think now the way that the media works, it's like these roles are popping up. I just saw the other day, like it was a director of creator partnerships or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And yeah, and these are becoming, just regular roles, just like, a marketing director is, and so, yeah, so tell them, yes, you're doing the right thing. Definitely. I think also really like spend time, and I mean, with any big hires, you want that, but I would like specifically for this person, like really spend time, because this person is going to be very front facing. They're going to be in conversations where you're not going to be, you're not going to see it, but they're going to be out there. They're going to be the face of your brand in many places. Like when I think of TechSmith, I think of you and Andy, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a really good connection with that, right? And I think it's a really good thing to do. Like, hey, it humanizes the brand. It's like this brand, there's yes, there's like other platforms that I could use, but this brand, I know Andy, I know Matt, I know Rob, and
Mm-hmm.
that features in, like, let's just say software, even services, right? But services like feature, like they're almost so identical these days. Like this platform does this and this platform does this as well, same thing, the pricing is so close. What's left as far as like differential advantage is probably like the relationships, like the connection you have with the people in those brands, right? And so, yeah, and so spend time, like, whatever that may look like. I know a lot of people are very remote these days, but if you have the means to do it, fly that person in, spend a couple days with them in the office, meet the team, and really understand, like, and really like make sure that all the things check off. EQ, your, like you mentioned, your values, do they
Mm-hmm.
align? When push comes to shove, which way will they go? Will they sort of represent your brand well? So yeah, I think those are the few things. Of course, all the things, technical skills and all that stuff, assume that that's going to be checked off, but it's really those intangibles, I think, that you want to make sure is like, is all good with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to give credit where credit's due for TechSmith. I wish I could say like I did this thing. No, I built off the shoulders of many people. One of them who started, we had an evangelism program in 2002. So Betsy
Oh,
Weber was someone who went out and actually did a lot of kind of that connection, true evangelism. It's obviously my role's not that. It's I do a lot more of kind of on camera content creation work, but I mean, I got to give her all the credit because she developed some great philosophies, strategies that allowed someone like me to watch her, be with her, see the things that she did, and continue to do some of that on my own. So just want to give credit where credit's due from my
I love
perspective
that. I
because
love that.
it's I think that's true for all of us, right? We're building on the shoulders of the people that have done work before us, and I think that's true about kind of creators as well. And so speaking of that, as we I want to make sure we get to our speed round questions here in a few minutes. But Rob,
Yeah.
there's a lot of trends out there right now, and you're someone I know who's really tapped in. What are maybe 2 or 3 trends that you're seeing in video right now that like, and obviously podcasts go on, they live for a long time, so we'll put a date on this. This is early 2024. 2 or 3 trends though that you think are like really hot and really worth like understanding in terms of like whether your brand or maybe an individual you could tap into to maybe be more successful or just help your work be better.
Yeah. A couple, I guess. One, LinkedIn. I know me and you are both really locked in on LinkedIn. I'm seeing more creators, more, people that you would never expect to be on LinkedIn being there. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a video creator and you want to, or you're a creative, yeah, definitely, like, don't discount LinkedIn. And then on the funner side, like in terms of content, I'm seeing a lot of like these like very Wes Anderson-y kind of like short form videos. I really love those. And that's really yeah, these look really great. So, and I'm seeing a lot of brands. The thing kind of that happens is like, brands are sort of like the second wave. Like, things will go trendy, whether it's on YouTube or short form like Reels or TikTok and stuff. It's gonna be trendy for like everybody, and then brands will kind of follow next. And so as a brand, like, this is again like why you should have creators internally, because they can identify like, hey, this is trending. So yes, I know we're a brand, and but we got to swim in the same pool. We got to swim with these people, and this is what they see. This is what's getting attention and eyeballs right now. And so yeah, those kind of short form videos are really fun for me. So I'm seeing a lot of brands like kind of do the same thing, as they go to conferences, or if they have their like their like quarterly meetings with the all hands with the team, they'll do similar like Wes Anderson kind of videos. It's really fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great meme out there though. It's a cartoon of like it's like this party. The first panel is like a party of all these people,
Yeah,
and they're having. There's obviously something really that's capturing their attention, and then all of a sudden there's like one person. I think this is like got a pineapple head or something like that, representing the brand. And then the next thing you know, everybody's pineapple head people because it's all brands, and all the other people have left. Because yeah, you're right. But like having internal creators can help you identify those, get on those trends, and lean into them as they're timed appropriate. Because it does seem like I find it's hard. Trends are hard to keep up with. They move quickly and they die fast, and you want to be seen. You gotta know what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean those trends there. On another note, Matt, also like just having again a circle of like trusted creators that you work with. Maybe you don't have a creator in house yet, but having like some type of sort of inner circle or something where you can be tapped in to get feedback from your creator partners. If you're a brand, I think it's really smart too. Like it might cost you a little bit of money. You got to figure out some type of incentive, but yeah, just like having that like ear to the ground to understand what's going on outside of the walls of your company is very important. So you don't get left behind. In terms of trends and things.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just note that we won't have time to talk about today, but that you mentioned it. It used to be that brands would not pay for this kind of like consulting, like, oh, we don't need to know what's going on. But like the world's changed, like influencers working with these brand creators that are not part of your company, like it does cost. And I think it's important just to have that as a footnote, right? Like that people want to be paid for their time, and it's important to do that because it is valuable. So
big time. Yeah. You don't want to be the brand with like that rep that they don't pay.
Yeah.
Like you underpay or you don't pay at all. And because creators talk now a lot, right? So yeah,
absolutely. Well, Rob, we're going to play a little stinger here. We're going to go into our speed round question. These are quick, fast answers to questions that are determined by the roll of dice. So here we go.
Let's do it.
All right, Rob, we're going to bring up this is our dice.
Look
cam.
At this. Wow.
Right. And we're going to roll the first one is number 11. So question 11 for you here is if you had to pick an image that represents you, it could be any image you want. What's a great image to represent you?
Oh my gosh. What's a great image to represent me? Man. You know what? Like a big like a rhino or something that's typically how I don't know, was it Zuckerberg that said like we move fast and break things? It's kind of like how I work is just like that. It's like, well, we're gonna plan a little bit, but we're gonna just move. We'll take action. It's a very startup-y mind of me. But yeah, a rhino, one of those big.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I mean, less deadly than the hippo, but still formidable, right?
Yes.
All right. So here we're back to our dice tower and dice roll. Here we go. I'm gonna call that. It's a little leany, but it's a 6 with the dot there at the bottom. So number 6 is share a piece of advice that you've received that has had lasting impact on you. It does not have to be related to video, but just a piece of advice that's maybe made a difference in your life.
Yeah. It's come in different ways, like over the years, but like recently I heard somebody say like something to the effect of like, something to the effect of like around generosity and like kind of giving away. And again, this is kind of relevant to like the YouTube space and like video space. A lot of people will kind of hold in their knowledge and access and stuff like that. But somebody said like, hey, like you sometimes like they'll say like the tree is kind of known by its fruits. Mm-hmm. But like somebody said something to the effect of like sometimes the tree is sometimes known by other people's fruits. So like you help other people, and actually what they produce, what they do, similar to like what you just mentioned earlier. I forget the lady's name that started the brand
Yeah,
evangelism
Betsy
program.
Weber. Yeah,
Yeah, so she started something in you, and then now here we are, right? And so,
absolutely.
yeah, the fruits are kind of seen. Your fruits are sometimes seen in other people's trees. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're providing the nourishment that grows the vineyard versus the
Yeah, other
you
people see.
being the
Yeah,
vineyard itself. Yeah, awesome. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah, there it is.
All right, we got one more dice roll here. Last one, and hopefully it's not a duplicate. This one I'm gonna call that a 9. It
It looks like a 9. Yeah.
yeah, so 9 here. What's the one thing you're most proud of in your career? So you've done a lot,
Oh,
but something you're most proud of.
oh man. Man, yeah, it's hard to boil it down to one thing, honestly. But I think in general, I'm proud to have built so far, and I'm not done yet. I still have a few years left in me, but just building a career that hopefully is shows integrity. That hopefully along the way we didn't, kind of like, screw anyone over or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's not, so having a career that is has integrity. I think about this sometimes when we have conversations. There's when at like LeBron James, for example, has like, he's done so much, but like he has a clean record. Like you can't say anything bad about it. But yeah, I think that's probably above like any sort of accomplishment. Is just having a career so far that hopefully has helped other people, and there's has integrity.
I love that. Great answer. Well, Rob, it is always a pleasure to talk with you. I thoroughly enjoy the opportunities that we get to chat occasionally. Sometimes I wish it was more. However, before we wrap up, a couple things. One, if people want to follow you, they want to get advice from you, they want to connect with you, where should they turn?
Connect with me personally. We connect on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube. That's where you see me on the personal side, and anything on the Uscreen side, just go to uscreen.tv.
Perfect. Okay, as we wrap up here, we always ask our guests for their final take. So, Rob Balasabas, I'll get that right. Like if I slaughter it, I apologize. But Rob, what is your final take?
Yeah, final take. Hey, so video creators, I would just love for you guys to really start thinking about, if you haven't already, is really start thinking about your business like a business. There's going to be times as you grow now, is like you're going to start, you're going to be a great video creator, great creative, but you're going to have to eventually at some point put on the CEO hat. Would love for you to just start thinking that through, because I'm seeing so many creatives and video creators now having these amazing opportunities to be CEOs and really run their business. The world is a crazy time to be alive in terms of content and media. So I'm super excited for you guys, and I think the world is your oyster in terms of opportunities.
Awesome. Rob, thank you again so much for joining me here in the Visual Lounge.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
You bet. All right, everybody, go follow Rob. I mean, information, advice, integrity all together is good, and you should go follow him because he's got so much that he has to offer. And he really is an example of walking the walk and doing the talk, because he's been very successful on YouTube on his own channel, helps Uscreen, he helps successful on LinkedIn, so someone that you should look to as an example for sure. And of course, that's what we're all about on the Visual Lounge, helping you make your progress, to grow, to be better at what you do, because we know there's power in the visual communication, there's power in images, there's power in video, and we want you to get better at it. So if that's something that you like, make sure you like and follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff, because then you'll never miss a show. We've got more great shows coming for you. And with that said, we hope you take a little time to level up every single day. Thanks, everybody.